Okay, good afternoon to everybody. I'm Chiara Fini, and I will talk in the place of Anna Borghi. And my talk today will be centered about the social dimension of the language within an embodied perspective. There are many theories, grounded and embodied theories, that represent language like a laser pointer to indicate object, or a modal system to refer to objects. Actually, there is this promising theory that is called the theory of the word as social tool that claim that the language is a form of action, is an ethereal tool. Let's take some example from our daily life. We need a pen, but this pen is out of our reachable space, and so presumably if there is a person closer to this pen, we might ask to this person, please, could you pass me the pen, and in a few seconds I will have my pen on the hand. Another example, I don't know the meaning of a word, and I don't have with me Wikipedia or social media, but there is a professor, a reliable person, and I might ask this person, please, could you explain me the meaning of this concept? And again, thanks to this answer, I will be able to broaden my knowledge and to update my categories of thinking. So with these two examples, I want to say that language and through the verb of communication, we are able to improve our space of action, but also our space of knowledge. For this reason, language has to be considered a form of action. Okay, in this presentation, I will talk about the word as a form of action by stressing the social dimension in abstract and concrete concept, because when we talk about language, we have to make this distinction between abstract and concrete. And afterwards, I will present some preliminary data of two behavioral studies that still have to be published. The first one is about the mechanism implicated in the processing of abstract concepts. The second one is an example of how an abstract concept like ownership can impact our space representation and so lead to a reshaping of our environmental representation. Okay, this is a nice study of Ryan and Pulver-Muller that is quite recent, in which it has been shown that when we process abstract concepts, there is a specific activation of the face motor area. And when these abstract concepts are linked with mental states, there is a very strong activation of the mouth motor area. This is supported by also behavioral studies showing that when we perform tasks on abstract concept, there is a facilitation in terms of reaction time when we use the microphone compared to a keyboard to deliver the response. But first of all, what is the difference between abstract and concrete concept? A concrete concept is very easy. It's a table, it's a bottle, it's a cake. It's something that we can perceive, so with which we can interact. An abstract concept is really complicated. It's detached from the perceptual experience, and there is a strong social linguistic component. We learn abstract concepts through thanks to the help of the others, thanks to the help of an intellectual referent that teach us the meaning of this word. So, if we consider this neuroimaging data and some other behavioral support, we arrive to speculate about some neuropsychological mechanisms that are behind the processing of abstract concepts compared to concrete concepts. The theory of the word as social tool tries to list these mechanisms that are not mutually exclusive. Why there is this mouth motor area activation when we process abstract concepts but not the concrete ones? Probably because this subtraction activation shows that we prepare ourselves to ask information to another actor in order to improve our knowledge, or maybe a reenactment of the social experience through which we learn a complex like freedom, democracy, justice, something that we cannot touch, that we cannot experience. As the last one, the idea is that there is the inner speech at work. In a speech, to use the badly word is an active rehearsal of an offline speech planning. And in the idea of the world of theory and social word would be really crucial to have the access to the semantic of the word. Every time that I face a really complicated concept, I might need to re-explain to myself the meaning of this word, and for this reason, I need the inner speech. The first study that I'm going to present is basically linked with this third mechanism that I just mentioned, and the idea was to disrupt the inner speech in order to have an effect in terms of reaction time in the processing of abstract concepts compared to concrete. And we took advantage of the articulatory suppression that basically is a neuropsychological technique that it has been used a lot, that is able to disrupt this inner language and so to show some effect in terms of reaction times. So we took 40 participants, and our material was composed by 80 words, 40 concrete and 40 abstract, that were matched for the age of acquisition. The task was quite easy. There was a fixation cross, and the word was appearing on the screen that could be abstract or concrete, and participants were asked to categorize this word as abstract or concrete by pressing with the feet two different pedals that were lying on the ground. Why the feet and not the mouth and not the hand as a factor? Because behavioral studies show that there is a facilitation in performing tasks by using the microphone as device. In the abstract concept, the opposite pattern happens for the concrete, with a facilitation when we use the hand to respond, and we have to perform tasks on concrete concept. So we decide to use the feet. It was a between subject design, so one group performed the articulatory suppression task that consists in repeating at a certain pace, ta, 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 ta. And so in this way we were able to disrupt the inner speech. And as control condition, there was a non-verbal task. Participants were asked to squeeze an anti-stress ball. We decided to use a non-verbal task to control for confounding variable to be sure that the effect was actually related with the inner speech. We analyze our data by using a linear mixed model, and we enter in our linear mixed model the activity as fixed factor, manipulation and articulatory suppression, and the category abstract versus concrete, and our expected interaction, activity by category interaction. We had also some unbalanced variable, frequency, familiarity, and the length of the word that were entered as well. We got a main effect of the activity. As you can see from the graph, there were slower reaction time in the manipulation condition compared to the suppression condition. And the idea is that probably it was a non-verbal task in a verbal task. But what is interesting for us is that the significant activity by category interaction, as you can, in line with our hypothesis, in the suppression condition you see slower reaction time in the categorization of abstract concepts compared to concrete, and the opposite pattern was found in the manipulation condition. Of course, this study has a limit, and the limit is that is missing a baseline. So we are collecting more data, because at the moment we cannot say whether is this articulatory suppression responsible of the significant interaction, or is the manipulation that is responsible of the effect we found? So we can say that this study, at least impartially, suggests that to comprehend abstract words, we use the inner speech. And this is expressed by a delay in the reaction times. For time limit, I'm not going to present here another additional analysis that we perform, because we had items with a specific morphological structure. So some of our words were suffixed, some of them were monomorphemic. And we know that a lot of abstract concepts are suffixed compared to concrete. So it's from the result, by applying the same linear mixed model, but this time entering instead of a category the morphological structure with the factor monomorphemic and suffix, we found there was a faster processing of suffixed word compared to the monomorphemic. And this difference was quite pronounced in the articulatory suppression condition. This, we speculate, can suggest that participants, due to the difficulty to access to the semantic of the word because of the articulatory suppression that was disrupting the inner speech, might have switched to a morphological strategy in order to perform the task. Let's go to the second task, that is an example of how language, abstract concept can behave like tool, like ethereal tool. Ownership is a typical abstract concept, and I chose this sentence because I found this sentence quite provocative. Ownership is a prototypical abstract concept which is not ready to the senses. This is not true, at least within the grounded embodied theories of language. Because let's imagine that every time that there is a Coke on the table, we have to decide without any environmental cue who is the owner. We should fight every time. It's mine, it's yours. So we don't need to fight because there is huge literature in the peripersonal space that is saying that if a can is mine, in my reachable space, it's mine. It's I touch as first something, it's mine. It's I discover something as first, it's mine. So the system, our brain, is able to capture affordances around the environment by taking in consideration this some cue related to the relation between my body and the space. But it's concerned just the peripersonal space. We don't know anything about the extrapersonal space, that is the space beyond the reaching distance, the space in which we cannot use our superior limb, but in which we have to walk, we have to navigate, and so we use our leg. Here in the literature, this topic has been completely neglected. So our goal in this study was to understand the relation between the sense of ownership manipulated through the verbal communication language and the extra-personal space categorization. So we exploited a method that it has been published a lot of time, and we took 43 students from La Sapienza again, and we asked this participant to perform a dichotomic task categorization. So basically they were asked to decide whether an umbrella, an object that was moving along a vector in a 3D arena, whether this object was near or far. It was a subjective judgment. So there was this umbrella moving in ascending series or descending series, and so from near to far and from far to near, and participants were asked to decide when the umbrella subjectively from far become near and from near becomes far. The point in which there was this shift of judgment was called judgment transition threshold, and signals the extension of the near space, the space that is considered near by each participant, and it is average in each series, in each participant, in each condition. The design was a within-subject design with the ownership as independent factor at 3 levels that was manipulated with vocal clips. There were trials, before each trial there were vocal clips saying the umbrella is mine, the umbrella is yours, it's an umbrella. And these vocal clips were performed by 2 voices, one of a male, one of a female. Some example in Italian, I'm sorry, but
È il mio ombrellone.
It's my umbrella, it's the umbrella of the speaker.
È il tuo ombrellone.
The umbrella is yours, it's the umbrella of the participant.
È un ombrellone.
It's an umbrella, the neutral condition.
È il mio ombrellone.
The male voice.
È il tuo ombrellone. È un ombrellone.
Some example. This is the ascending series. This is the descending series. The arena was extended for 54 meters. Okay, very briefly, because the time is going to finish, on the left panel you can see the results. On the vertical axis you find the judgment transition threshold, or the near extrapersonal space extension. We computed a new index, so we subtract the baseline condition from the experimental condition. So yours, the umbrella is yours, minus the neutral condition, it's an umbrella, and the same, the umbrella is mine, minus the neutral condition. As you can see, there was a near space extension when the umbrella was attributed to the participant. But what is interesting in this result that concerns the entire sample is the fact that this result was mainly driven by the behavior of the males. We divided our sample in female and males, 20 female, 23 males, and we entered the gender as between factor in an ANOVA. And as you can see, basically this effect was present only in the male sample. The female were completely insensitive to the sense of ownership in the extrapersonal space. So, from this study, we can conclude that the sense of ownership manipulated through verbal auditory cues induced to categorize an object as closer, accessible, but this effect is dramatically modulated by the gender. The male seems to be so sensitive to ownership compared to the female. Maybe we can speculate because of evolutionistic reason that males are more territorial. We have to think about it. We are performing another study to better clarify this one. But let me conclude with a humor. Sometimes when we have a guest, we used to say, you should consider my house as your house. What is mine, it's yours. After this empirical data, I would suggest to consider the gender of the owner. It's just a joke, but I would like to thank you for your attention, and Professor Anna Borghi, that is the author of the theory of the word as social tool.